1 second. Okay, we're live. Here we go. Testing, testing. Today on Quality Time with Family Ties, we learn. All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay, wait, let's do one more take.
That was so good.
Was it good? Okay, let's keep it. All right.
Yeah.
And in, you can take that in there, okay? All right. And oh boy. And in, hey, Henry, can you close the door? Real quick. I'll get it. Hold on. Oh, thank you, buddy. I'll be in here, okay? Good job, man. All right. And in 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Quality Time with Family Ties. I am one of your hosts, Scott Jones. Joining me, Mr. Paul Packler. Paul, how's it going?
I'm great. Welcome back, Scott.
I'm glad to be back. I'm sorry Corey is sick and couldn't record with us today.
That's all right. We have a third host. The first time she's helping host the show, Maisie Jones.
Maisie Jones in the house, having a little dinner. If you guys are watching, Maisie's sitting with me having some butter noodles.
And, they look good.
They're delicious, yeah. And this is going to be, for those of you who listen to the show, this is going to be an episode, Can Scott Parent while recording a podcast?
So far, you've been doing a great job at that. I remember in past episodes, you were doing it yeoman's work.
Yeah, it was rough. Henry was throwing stuff at me while I would be recording.
That's true, yeah. Or at the wall, or at the door.
Yeah, there'd be a bunch of, yeah. Maisie's a little bit more mellow, so, you know. Well, I think this is going to be a good setup.
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
So,
Paul, how are you?
Scott,
how are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. You know, I could complain, but who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
What are we complaining about, Paul?
Everything. Literally everything. Every day.
Really, every day is
a hellscape. We haven't had time to catch up, Scott, but yeah, I don't know if you've been reading the news now that you have 2 kids, but the news is bad.
It's bad, and this is probably, from what you've just discussed with me before we started recording, it is trickling into our show, which makes me...
get ready, folks.
It makes me even more pissed off that it has to affect the quality of Quality Time with Family Ties.
Folks, it's season 6, episode 19, The Blues, brother.
And I wish I think I texted you, I wish we were watching The Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I think...
A show where Nazis actually get punched and beat up on.
Yes, they drive off bridges. It's amazing.
It's a God bless America for the Blues Brothers.
But this episode is an interesting one.
On the surface, I feel like... Oh, Henry's coming in playing the blues for us really quick.
Hey, Daddy?
Yes, buddy, really quick, because we got to talk. What do you want to say? Henry's got the blues from this episode.
Great. That was great.
Thank you, buddy.
Daddy, do we get to keep it?
Yes, you can keep it, but you got to close the door.
We get to keep it.
We get to keep the harmonica, folks.
Do we get to get it forever?
Forever you get to keep that harmonica. Henry has decided to become a blues man, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to make no money, but he'll be happy.
He'll make no money because of systemic racism. There we go.
And we enter. Oh, my God. On the surface, this episode is the laziest episode of Family Ties ever, I think.
And I'm fine with that. That is not one of my problems with this episode.
We have come to expect that, in fact.
No, I want them to take... I just want... Because, gang, Brownie McGee is a guest star on this episode. They brought in blues legend Brownie McGee. And he comes in and he plays the guitar. And he plays like a fictionalized version of himself. He does a concert at the end. So this episode has no plot.
And I'm with you. I kind of give him credit for letting Brownie McGee be the episode.
Yes.
It's because he's great blues music, right? There's not... Why put too much around it?
Exactly. You got a legend, just let them legend away.
You know, and I'm kind of glad that at least for once the writers looked back on everything that had been established in Family Ties and remembered that Alex worked at a radio station and kind of went back to that.
Yeah, let's start with that, shall we? WLEL.
Mhm.
The Leland Station.
The Leland Station. Apparently, Alex has been doing radio still. We didn't know. We haven't seen it since Sweet Lorraine in season 2.
Yeah, if you're driving on the Ohio Turnpike and you tune in to 87.2 FM, you might go into range to pick up Alex P. Keaton's, what's it called? Syncopated Money radio program.
Yes, Syncopated Money radio program, where he plays jazz and blues and also talks about economics.
Yeah, Milton Friedman and Ella Fitzgerald and all kinds of nonsense.
And goddamn, do they milk that joke? They milk that joke, and they milk Alex's little theme song, Alex Keaton, He's So Cute.
I would expect nothing less from Alex P. Keaton.
I wouldn't either. And again, writers being lazy, that they hang their hat on those jokes because that song plays at least a good goddamn 10 times in this episode.
Yes,
they think it's really funny.
No. I find it amazing that in the world of this, Alex was able to find 3 women to sing that jingle all together. Like, he was able to find and probably pay 3 women to sing in harmony. Alex Keaton, He's So Cute. It's shocking to me that that's possible.
And let's realize this is
Daddy?
before. Yes, bud.
I gotta go poo, so I'm gonna live with.
I'll be right back. Again, never a dull moment on Quality Time with Family Ties.
Did he say what's he going to do?
He's gonna go poo. He's just letting me know.
There you go. Come to Quality Time with Family Ties for the interesting talks about Michael J. Fox. Stay for whether or not Henry's gonna poop.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, man. It's it's. I also wanted to explore the question: why would Alex be? Okay, don't call me a jerk. And that is
no!
Upset. I don't know why he's getting upset.
What did he call you a jerk about?
I don't know. I think he thinks we're making fun of. I think poor Henry thinks we're making fun of him for going poo.
Oh no, not at all.
Never. You know, it's like the book says: everybody poops. All right,
it's true. Even Alex P. Keaton.
Even Alex P. Keaton. Why is Alex P. Keaton a blues fan?
That's an excellent
what
question,
in his
Scott.
character would even
I was
warrant
wondering
that?
at the top of this episode. I don't feel like it's something that he would be into, but
It wouldn't
I also at the same time, based on how everyone else acts in this episode about blues music, it kind of makes sense too, and it has to do with appropriation.
Paul, please explain.
Well, this is going to be a deep episode, folks. We're going to talk about a lot of heavy topics, and we're not experts at this, so I would say at the outset, go read about these topics if you're actually interested. Don't listen to us two schmoes try to wax philosophic about systemic racism and cultural appropriation and all of this, and the history of exploitation of Black art and life in America. I would say go read authors, go read historians, go listen to people of color talk about these things, not two white guys on a fucking podcast.
No, people that know about it better, that have been affected by it, that can really speak to it. Yes, absolutely.
That being said,
here we go.
The thing that I think I could point to as the most... There you go.
Yeah, just keep going.
The most interesting thing about this is that I could point to and say Brownie McGee's brother is a guy named Stick McGee. Stick McGee wrote a song called Wine Spody Odie, and that became a huge hit because it was covered by Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis made millions upon millions of dollars by appropriating Black music, calling it rock and roll, and taking all of the money that people like Stick McGee, who you've never heard of, who wrote that song, died of lung cancer in Harlem in the 1980s.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, you have these experiences where, that they talk about in this episode, that white people take Black culture and then leave Black people in the dust. They don't give them money. They don't give them opportunity economically or culturally or in any sort of power dynamic in this country, but they will take whatever they make and then capitalize on it themselves. And
Very much so, yes.
Alex B. Keaton being into blues music, because this is what we were talking about at the top of this, is not a crazy thing.
No, not at all. It's actually one of the finer points of this episode. Very much so.
Yeah, this episode falls ass backward into saying some interesting things about white people and the way that they treat black people.
Absolutely. Paul, can we pause for just 1 second? I'll be right back, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to get him settled in so we can keep talking.
Okay.
Okay, picking back up.
Okay.
All right.
So where were we? We were talking about
Paul,
why...
you're absolutely right. I mean, this goes on just like Jerry Lee Lewis. Same deal.
Here, wait, you were cracking. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Okay, I got you now. Picking back up again.
Okay, yeah, start again.
Picking back up again, Freddie. Yeah, Paul, exactly what you're saying. And it's not just Jerry Lee Lewis. People like Elvis Presley, same deal. We took blues music from black people and made it into rock and roll.
Yes. And I think it's made example of in this episode where you have people like the college professor who calls in. We're going to jump all around this episode because the plot doesn't really go anywhere. We could explain it very quickly. But it's not really the most interesting thing, like how this works.
There's barely a plot.
Yeah. The college professor who calls in and says that he would like... so Brownie McGee isn't playing Brownie McGee. He's playing a character named Eddie Dupree.
Mm-hmm.
And so the college professor is saying, oh, man, I would love for you to come. You're my favorite performer, blues musician. I would love you to come play at this theater or something that I'm doing a benefit or something. And then everyone has to call in to convince Eddie Dupree to do it because he doesn't want to perform in public anymore because he's a bus driver now.
Mm-hmm.
But then later, after the commercial break, when he does go to perform at the concert by himself, he's talking to that same professor, and the professor's talking about, like, I don't know, modes of music and different types of chord structure, modal, who the fuck knows?
Tonality, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing of, like, taking black art and then talking about how brilliant it is and all this kind of stuff. But again, they're making a joke out of it that, like, this guy who doesn't know about academic stuff and just makes art. And it's like, obviously, Eddie Dupree, who works as a bus driver and didn't go to college and was growing up somewhere in the South because he said he's from Atlanta. And at the time that he would have been a young person, didn't get to go to an unsegregated high school or college. He probably didn't get to go to a college based on economic situation.
Don't forget that.
Okay, we just have to stop.
Sorry, Paul. I know you want to. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
That's all right.
Okay.
That's all right.
Okay. All right. Pick it back up.
Okay. because he's from Atlanta, so there was segregation. He wasn't able to go to an integrated high school, or even probably not even go to college and all this kind of stuff. So it's supposed to be funny that he doesn't understand what this crazy professor's talking about, but at the same time, that this professor takes such interest in this lowly art form is supposed to be funny, but it's like that this art could be created in the first place shows how amazing and genius Eddie Dupree is as an artist and a person, and that he was able to transcend what shitty circumstances he was in is something that doesn't go unsaid, or that goes unsaid in this joke, and it goes unsaid in this episode, and all this kind of stuff, that it's just, I don't know, it's interesting, it's telling, and it's something to keep in mind as you're watching this episode. Again, this is like a heavy episode because there's not a lot of funny jokes, and the topic that they're choosing to like pretend to be really into, they do it in a shitty way.
Right. And the thing is that they treat the blues as very quaint. Hold on, let's hold. I'll pick up. We'll pick up. I'll get my comment. Yep. Okay. Okay, picking up.
Okay.
Yeah. And Paul, here's what I'm thinking. They treat the blues as very quaint. Oh, what a, piece of Americana, and I love it. It's so great. There's like this quaintness without anyone fully understanding, like you were saying, where it came from, why it happened, and how it was exploited.
Absolutely. That's totally, yes, I completely agree. And they exoticize it too. Like they're like the parents at the beginning of Get Out, where like the Bradley Whitford character being like, you know what, if I could have voted for Obama a third time, I would have. And like when Eddie Dupree comes in to visit the Keatons, they're all just like on pins and needles around this guy in a way that is very, like, it's just odd, and it's really white liberally in a way that you just feel it. It's just palpable.
It's the Stephen Colbert, I have a black friend.
Yes.
That's what it is. And really, if you do like the blues, if you've listened to the blues, really explore it because it's extremely fascinating. It's extremely fascinating where these artists came from, how their music got recorded. I only say this because I took a music course in college that was kind of a history from folk to blues and everything. And the idea of it tied into religion in a way of going to church. You go to the juke joint on Saturday and listen to blues music and kind of testify your problems. And then you go to church on Sunday to ask for forgiveness for being at the juke joint.
Right.
But it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. The story of blues music is the story of American music. That's
Absolutely.
it. It's
absolutely it's where it all springs from.
Yeah, and so and American culture too. The same way people like George Will talk about baseball being like you could look at history of America through baseball and how it changes over the 20th century, and you can very much do that since the beginning of America with the blues and its ties to slavery and its ties to segregation and its ties to capitalism and all these sorts of things. And so from all of that, studying blues music in such an like large and intersectional way is something that everyone should do, and that to study it is to come to terms with a lot of topics in American culture that are important to understand, important to be aware of, important to try to make better, and to just make an episode where you're like, oh, you know what I like, that there's these two guys, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, that we listened to in college, and so we're huge blues fans from the early 60s, like Bob Dylan used to talk about them, so we should bring them on our sitcom that we're filming, and it's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
And the guy that co-wrote this episode, his name is Bert Prelutsky, and I just did some cursory Googling, and he's a Trump supporter, and he has a blog, and he has some interesting things to say about African Americans. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh dear God.
Yeah. So, it's pretty funny that this episode that has a lot of interesting points of view and blind spots to it is written by someone who is very easily, in the next 35 years, able to become a racist Trump supporter.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was astonished when you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that there's not, again, like we were saying, there's not much to this episode.
No, there's a couple bits. Like at the radio station, Alex has his bits. There's some calls into the show. When he plays a record that is by Brownie McGee, and he's like, "That's Eddie Dupree singing whatever the song is called." And sadly, he died. And then immediately, there's a call. And it's Eddie Dupree being like, "I'm not dead. I'm driving a bus." And so I just love the idea that, like, Eddie Dupree, bus driver, on his radio as he's driving his route, is listening to 87.2 WLEL. Like, as we learn throughout the episode, he is a fan of Alex's radio show.
Yeah, I think you just hit on something. It just occurred to me as you were saying, where Alex announces that Eddie Dupree has passed away. That just kind of what you have just said about blues music, of how most Americans are viewing blues music.
Wait, I didn't hear what you said. It broke up on my end.
Okay, coming back in. Sorry. That thing you just said about Alex claiming, Eddie Dupree is dead, misstating that. That kind of just encapsulates everything you just said about the appropriation of blues music a little bit.
Why do you say that?
A white person's. It just it kind of just is a good statement. A white person saying Eddie Dupree is dead, knowing nothing about Eddie Dupree.
That's a good point. And yeah, and later he does say that he's like a huge fan and stuff like that, but
right.
But then has no idea if he's alive or dead.
Right. That makes no sense. If you're a huge fan
John Lennon, I'm a huge fan. Oh my God, he died?
Love the Beatles. All right. Holding for a second. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
What's going on? Hey. Sounds horrible, doesn't it?
What happened?
It's the littlest thing. Henry just took the harmonica away from her.
Oh my God, this harmonica is tearing your family apart.
I got the blues, Paul.
Wow. See how it works?
Yep. All right. Picking back up. Jumping back in for editing. Yeah, it's like we were saying, like if you like John Lennon and not knowing he's dead.
You know what? When I was watching the episode, I was like, well, before the internet, you can't just look up to see who's alive and dead.
Yeah, that's a fair statement, I think.
Like ever since, like, I would say Michael Jackson passed away, that was like the first time that everyone was learning about it in real time from a celebrity death.
Yeah,
because of social
within
media.
Like 5 minutes. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like with JFK, our parents and people older were like, where were you when JFK died? And ever since Michael Jackson, it's just been, oh yeah, I found out on Twitter. Oh, I found out on Facebook. Like, that's just how it happens now. So you know everyone who dies and when they die and if they're alive or dead.
How they die. Like within minutes.
So, I mean, I give Alex only slight credit on the fact that, like, before then, unless you're like super into somebody, you wouldn't really be like, how would you even look up to see if they're alive or dead?
It's true. You would have to, you would have to go like to the library and get like those microfiche and like go through and like comb articles.
You have to go through years of microfiche just to go through the obituaries and find out that they're not there. It's like disproving a negative. And you're like, because I haven't found it, they're probably alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
but it's crazy that his favorite musician, arguably, lives in the same town as him.
Lives in the same town, and it's crazy, like, the immediate response the whole, all of Columbus, Ohio has once they discover Eddie Dupree is alive.
Yeah, yeah. First, I'm shocked that many people listen to his radio show.
Right. And you're also talking about blues music, which has popularity, but from college students at that time, from like just this overwhelming, like, it's not just, oh man, I'm so glad Eddie Dupree's alive. It's like, you are the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little strange, a little odd. Another thing I think we can say about this episode, I wish from a writing standpoint, it feels like they didn't really hit hard enough on why Eddie doesn't want to ever perform again live.
Yeah, this is the most interesting part of the episode as far as what the story is.
Yeah.
And they totally whiff on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out...
And I think you could...
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go for it, sorry.
All right, so I mean,
I was saying
is just what happens in as much as, like, when Eddie calls in, he says he drives a bus and that he doesn't perform in public anymore. And he comes in to meet with Alex at his parents' house. And he meets the family, and that's very awkward and strange. And Steven starts playing blues songs on the guitar and singing in a vernacular, and it's embarrassing for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And and so he's over there and he agrees to do an interview. And Alex is like, no, we got to do like a whole Eddie McGee festival. And you play, and on the last day you play live. And he's like, no, I'll do one interview. I don't want to play live again. And the only reason they seem to give is he basically just says no one wants to hear blues music from a bus driver. And that is the thing that hits you the hardest in the whole episode. Again, you have to point at people like Elvis is dead at that point, but any white rock and roll star, especially from the 50s, that how rich they were, and that this guy is a bus driver, and if he's this amazing musician and he helped create this genre, or was a proponent of blues, arguably helped invent rock and roll, then it's embarrassing that you look at all these other old guys who are millionaires and live in mansions, and you drive a bus, and like the fact that every person who calls into the radio station, Steven and Elise, the rest of the Keatons and Alex especially, are all like, no, we like you, so you should perform for us. It's pretty shitty. Yeah, and there's no statement of correct or wrong. Like it would be
Or
nice.
even ask why.
Yeah, that would be a great place to start. You know, like I didn't. You know, like let's hear a little bit about Eddie's plight because it sounds like it's been pretty rough for him.
Yes. Like, hey,
You
that's
know?
an interesting story. How are you doing? Where are you living? Do you have a family?
Why don't you play anymore?
No, they're like, please perform for us, and you know all of the tropes that go along with that sort of dynamic in white culture. So
And Brownie McGee's a good enough performer. They could have given him a nice monologue right there. You know,
this is something that he was so good in this episode. Like he had such like grounded performance compared to everyone else who's acting like, you know, obnoxious sitcom performances. And he comes in and is just him. And like it's not the same, it's not the thing with like musicians where they can't do lines and stuff like that, or it sounds fake, or they, you know, memorized or stuff like that. He's
Right.
just in it. And he was great. Like I texted you, I was like, I would love to watch a show about this character, Eddie Dupree.
Absolutely, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
He was, and his comedic timing, like when he's talking, is awesome.
Yes. Yeah. 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 It's yeah. And he holds his own with Michael J. Fox. Like the scenes where it's just the two of them it's a lot of fun.
It was. I don't know. There was something that was a little embarrassing, like when they had the camera showing Michael J. Fox off to the side, mouthing the words to the song.
Well, we have to. We'll save the concert for later. That's
Yeah.
holy moly.
Holy moly! Oh man. Yeah, we're jumping all around. Should we take a commercial break?
Yeah, let's do a commercial break now, and then we'll like do the concert and some other stuff. But yeah, with that,
yeah,
we'll
I'll
be
play
right
us out.
back. Yeah, play us out, Scott. Nice. And we're back. So, yeah, where does that leave us?
Well, we're kind of getting okay. So Eddie has met the family, and then we have this very long scene of him being interviewed at the radio station, and I don't know why this scene goes on forever, because all that really transpires is
Look what I'm doing.
yes. Oh, very nice. He's sharing.
I don't even have the whole thing.
Nice, bud. See, parenting. I give him a cookie, and they're all happy.
That's great.
All that transpires in this scene is really everyone praising Eddie, and he's still resistant to the idea of performing. And what happens at the end is just like he gets one last great compliment, and he's like, okay, like kind of just a smile on his face, like.
No, you were breaking up. I'm sorry. What was the last thing that you said?
Basically, it ends with him with this big grin on his face, and we get the impression it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can feel that they're like trying to put a square peg into a round hole with regard to like a plot that like he doesn't want to perform, so we'll have a bunch of people call in to say how much he means to them, and then by the end of the scene, that's the climax is that he's been changed, or that's the reversal of his perspective, or whatever. And it's not really necessary. There's another moment that hits you in this. They're playing a handful of records of Brownie McGee from when he was younger, and so these are like real recordings, and he's listening, and he's like really interesting because he's like really listening to this, and like you can see that he's enjoying hearing himself when he was younger, and he takes pride in these performances, these recordings that he made. And at one point, I don't know if these are real people that he's talking about or if these are characters or like lines of dialogue that they wrote for him, but they're playing the record, and he's like, oh, that's I remember recording that. It was raining, and like Tommy Baroni was playing drums, and this person was playing rhythm guitar and all this kind of stuff, and Alex is behind him getting coffee, and he's listening to him say this, and it's so like oh, this is where the scene's going to go. And he's going to open up and talk about his life and talk about things that happened in his life. And Alex is going to like have an interesting thing, but none of that happens. Scott?
Amazing.
Scott?
Yeah. Okay, there you are.
Okay.
Sorry. That's where you put that monologue. Right there.
Oh, not even a monologue. That's where the scene should go. Like, the scene should continue on, like, talking about, like, what he's going to learn about Eddie Dupree.
True. It was just, yeah, it's a perfect moment for the character development and realizations and establishing something, right?
Mhm.
Instead of, that's where we get to this whole lazy thing. You have these great moments where you could just give a little, and they just rest on this, yeah, he just doesn't want to play because he's a bus driver.
Right.
With no expansion on that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for a scene to go on that long without delivering anything is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we go to the concert and they're backstage and Alex is playing on Andy's toy guitar and starts playing Baby Please Don't Go.
Yeah, that was painful.
Yeah, I mean, Michael J. Fox, as we've said in the past, is not the best singer in the world. And he's trying his damnedest to sing this.
And they even joke about that. He's like, Eddie, if you don't go out there and sing, I will.
Yeah. And Eddie's like, you drive a hard bargain.
Did you, when Alex had that guitar, did you kind of wish for a little Johnny B. Good?
But yeah. And again, when we're talking about all of the cultural appropriation and stuff like that, go back and watch Back to the Future and think about like that that Marty McFly invents rock and roll, not Chuck Berry.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so horrible to think that. You just put that in. Oh.
Yeah.
You know what also occurred, like when we're talking about the appropriation, is I remember on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where they had like Jerry Lee. It was like I think like the 50th anniversary or something like that. Some big anniversary for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And the opener was Jerry Lee Lewis.
Okay.
And what made it even more a little insulting, like given what we've talked about, is that he brings out Bo Diddley.
That's fine. What's wrong with that?
Well, it should be the reverse, really, in my opinion. Bo Diddley should be bringing out Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I understand. That's not a hill.
Yeah.
I would die on, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, just
my thing is that they both should get the same amount of accolades and payment and opportunity. There are a lot of black artists that didn't get the chance to be as rich and famous expressly because they were shut out of the radio business, because they weren't played in the same stations, they weren't sold in the same stores, and all that kind of stuff. You know, like that's, you know, the
Sure.
So like like Jerry Lee Lewis is an amazing rock and roll musician. And he wrote a couple songs, but otherwise was mainly a person who, like Elvis, played other people's songs. But like, I don't necessarily say that they're bad, but what they did was part of a system,
right,
that stopped other people and allowed them to become successful on the backs of people who didn't get to become successful.
True. Very true. I see exactly what you're saying.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think I was getting more at like the statement of the impression is Jerry Lee Lewis created this, and here's someone who, you know, the imagery of it is what I was kind of feeling. It's
That's like, a good point. That's yeah.
Like if we're starting from the root of it of rock and roll to now, it would, you know, Bo Diddley, the Bo Diddley riff, you know, kind of is instrumental in that, and Jerry Lee Lewis and all those rock and rollers kind of, you know, were able to kind of took that and loved it and expanded on it, and they were the ones that profited,
Right. And
from a chronological standpoint.
And just as an example of how insane it is the fact that Sister Rosetta Tharpe is only getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. Like, it's coming up that she's going to be inducted. Gang, she invented rock and roll. Like, she predated Chuck Berry, and Chuck Berry is who we say invented rock and roll. Like, no. Go listen to her and go listen to him, and he was doing what she did years before. The guitar playing, the way she leads, the way she sings. Chuck Berry, amazing songwriter, amazing musician, and stuff like that. But as a woman, as a black woman in America, Sister Rosetta Tharpe is only now getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which has been around, 30, 35 years?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And this is how it looks. This is how exclusion looks. I'm sorry. This is supposed to be fun quality time with family ties. But if they're going to do this in an episode, then we should talk about these things.
Yeah, we rarely get these chances to talk about things like this, and part of family ties is politics too, as well, So it's good that we have a chance. And to kind of expand on that, there are probably names we will never even know that contributed to this sound.
Yes.
They're gone and lost and forgotten. They aren't recorded, So that sucks too. But should we get to the concert?
Are we all right?
We're good.
Okay. Yeah, let's get to the concert.
So this was my favorite part of the episode. Normally, with something going on and on like this,
all of the camera guys started doing cocaine, and
there's fades. There's.
I just wanted to stand still a little bit. I think I don't know what happened, but they just started going crazy. They're just constantly panning over the crowd, and then they'll start a shot in a light, like they'll go to the gel. And shoot the gel of a light, and then pan over to a different light, and then fade out from that other light.
Yeah, it's like, look, Brownie McGee's here. We're gonna go all out for Brownie McGee. This is our last waltz. This is the closest we're ever gonna get to shooting something like the last waltz.
That is what that is. They are trying their damnedest to be Martin Scorsese in The Last Waltz.
They are. But it's awesome because essentially the very end of this is a Brownie McGee concert. It's a little medley.
He does 5 or 6 songs, and it's a medley and stuff like that. And he's amazing, honestly. It's so cliche for nerdy, bookish white guys to talk about blues music. But let me just do my little thing.
Yes.
So he and Sonny Terry are a duo where he played guitar, Sonny Terry played the harmonica, and they both sang. They're amazing. And they did a certain kind of blues called Piedmont blues, which was a mix of ragtime, finger picking style blues, which is different than most of the blues that you hear, the sort of Delta Chicago, rock and roll sound. So this is a little bit different. And there's people like Elizabeth Cotten, who is amazing because she played upside down because she was left-handed. And she grew up playing her brother's guitar, who was right-handed. So she plays everything upside down and left-handed.
Whoa!
And so it sounds way different the way that she plays. And she also does the Piedmont blues, where it's ragtimey and finger picking and stuff like that. And she only started recording in the 50s or 60s when she was 66 years old. It was the first time she ever played live. Again, these are the people that got shut out as young people from the business.
Right.
She was actually a maid for Pete Seeger's family.
Whoa!
That was her life. And then she ended up recording because I think Pete Seeger probably put her in touch with people and stuff like that. But people like her, or Reverend Gary Davis, who I learned this one blues song on the guitar, and his finger picking is amazing and interesting. But go look up Piedmont blues. It's a different thing that you've probably never heard. It's super cool. Again, it's so cliche for me to be you should listen to this blues, and blah, blah, blah. But Elizabeth Cotten is amazing. Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee is amazing. Reverend Gary Davis is amazing, and there's so many more. But as a nice thing, they're just the most amazing artists, and their songs are fantastic.
True. And I think we say this with all sincerity. I mean, we both have sounded like nerdy white guys, bookish white guys loving blues music, but sincerely, it is amazing music.
Yes.
Yes. So it's just wonderful to see Brownie McGee, this little Brownie McGee concert. And I give the producers credit for allowing that to end the show. Because it's a big chunk of time for just Brownie McGee to be doing a medley of songs.
Yeah, I don't know why they had this. Maybe it was during Sweeps Week. This is the end of January. I looked at the date of when this was. I'm guessing it's just because, like, at this point they were famous. It was a big popular show on TV, and that they were like, you know what? Here's a chance to do something we always wanted to do. Maybe, I don't know. But we all know that Michael J. Fox loves guitar, loves rock and roll, stuff like that. So maybe it was his idea. Maybe it was Gary David Goldberg's. Maybe it was the racist Burt Krelutsky back in the 80s when he didn't think of himself as racist. But like
someone high up had to push for this.
Yeah. And I'm glad they did because, getting to see him play, see him act and all that stuff. I recommend this episode just for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that
otherwise it's a completely middling episode.
Very yeah, there's nothing there. But again, just to watch Brownie McGee, his performance, they give him someone really wanted him to be in this episode. Like it's written for him.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty amazing in that regard. I would say this is, because of that, this has been one of the brighter spots in a weird way, because we've talked about some very deep, horrible things, but this has been one of the brighter spots in just seeing Brownie McGee perform.
Yeah.
Of this season.
Probably, I would say the top 2 episodes of season 6 so far. This might be the number 1 episode of season 6 so far.
It might be. And this is where season 6 has been such a mindfuck for the time I've been, jumped in with you guys, is that this, again, it has no plot whatsoever. There are no jokes whatsoever, yet this one was enjoyable because of that, because of that one element, right?
Yeah.
We didn't get the blues from listening to the blues.
Oh! And with that, I think that should take us to the credits.
I think that should, on that horrible joke, yes. Well, gang, be sure to, for questions and comments, be sure to write us at qualitytimewithfamilyties@gmail.com. And you can also follow us for updates on Twitter. We are at Qtwft. Each of us is on Twitter. I'm at Follow Jones.
I'm at Paul Packler.
And Corey is at Corpep. We'd like to thank our host and producer, Barbara Dillon at Fanbase Press. Fanbase Press is an online conglomerate of geek media, providing its readers with daily insights, reviews into the geek pop culture spectrum, and promoting independent artists. Check out everything that they do. We'd like to thank Perry Adams, who beautifully performs the theme song Without Us. And we'd like to thank Brian Dillon, Fanbase Press's co-president, and who also edits our show. And lastly, Sean Foster, Fanbase Press's graphic designer, who designed our logo. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Shalom.